cavalry's role in the Civil War was to perform scouting, reconnaissance. He'll ride into town with about 3,500 cavalrymen, move through town, and head off towards the west to find out where the Confederates are. Waiting behind him, about 5 miles away on the other side of town, was John Reynolds' Union infantry. He had about 10,000 foot soldiers, basically, who were waiting to see what Buford would find. So whatever he discovers, he's going to alert Reynolds of it, so his men start marching accordingly. At 7 o'clock in the morning, about a mile beyond that red roof barn, if you can see it out there where the houses are, about a mile to the right, I should say, of that red barn, John Buford's cavalry at 7 a.m. on July the 1st will make contact with about 10,000 Confederate infantry and fire the first shots. The battle begins about a mile and a half in that direction. Initially, the South outnumbered the North almost 3-1. So Buford simply tries to delay and slow down the Confederates for quite a while, hoping Reynolds can get here on time. Now, it's 10,000 men he was waiting for. It would take them, you're looking at 5-6 miles. It would take those guys about 3.5 hours to get here. So by 10 o'clock in the morning, Buford had been pushed back a mile and a half to where you see that barn with the two white sides, about a mile south of us. By that point in time, he had been fighting the Battle of Buford for 3 hours. He had fallen back a mile and a half. Thankfully for him, Reynolds would arrive shortly after 10 a.m. He'll arrive from an area called the Lutheran Center, I'll see later on, and advance his men. And after a very heavy contest where Reynolds was killed during the fighting, shot in the back of the head, the North pushes the South back in retreat. So by about 11 o'clock in the morning, the fighting subsides temporarily. The South retreats, they pull back to the Red Barn. The North, for the time being, holds the ground beyond the White Barn, the tree. That's their left flank or left end. It extends across the area that white truck is driving called the Chambersburg Pike. It goes into these woods called Will's Woods, where I'm pointing right now. And if you travel from the woods all the way to the stop sign at the intersection, notice the various monuments along the roadway. Those are all for Union regiments who fought there, about 350 men per monument station right there. So basically, you had very close to 10,000 Northerners between the stop sign and the wood beyond the White Barn, waiting to see what's going to happen next. Up until this point in time, nobody was here. Hill unoccupied. The battle had taken place behind us, and there was no reason to get here. But now, as the battle expands and gets larger, this hill becomes critical. So you have a race between North and South for the high ground. Unfortunately, here on day one for the Union, the Confederates coming down from Harrisburg and York will arrive from behind the hill and occupy it first. All right. So in the race for the high ground, the South wins, and that eventually forces the North to extend their battle lines across those wide open fields that we drove across coming up here. No cover, flat open countryside. To make it even worse, the South would place about 20 cannons on top of Oak Hill and proceed to just blast away at the Union lines. Cannon fire back in the Civil War was accurate from 1 to 2 miles away, and the shell would travel 1 mile in 5 seconds. So if these cannons up here are firing shots toward the White Barn, it would strike the area around the barn in approximately 5 seconds. So you couldn't see it coming. It'd be like that rock that comes at your windshield. You see it, it's too late. By that point in time, you can't duck and get out of the way. But that's how it was. On day one, a lot of these cannons were firing shots on the side of the line for the North on either side. If the target was a mile away, the shell would basically be a solid shot made of iron. It wouldn't explode, but it would bounce and skip. And the idea there was to fire it on the side of that line, because then it would be like bowling for the enemy, called enfilading fire. Sometimes a dozen men would go down at once. And here on the first day, that is exactly what the South was doing. For a long time, they would indeed bombard that Union line going that way as well as this way. By about 2:30 p.m., the South feels the time is right to attack with their infantry and finish them off. So at 2:30, the South will strike the very center of the Union line. Within a half an hour, they'll attack the left flank as well. And then about a half an hour after that, they attack the right flank over there in the open fields. Within about a half an hour of the battle beginning over here, the right flank for the Northern Army that's facing us would cave in and retreat towards town. And when those guys fall away and start to retreat, it has a domino effect on everyone else. And by about 4:30 or 5 o'clock p.m., all these guys who have been out here earlier for the Union are now on the run. They're fleeing these fields north and west of town, heading back all the way through the town of Gettysburg. They wouldn't stop in the town and onto the high ground beyond. So day one ends at around 5 o'clock p.m. with a Confederate victory. The South will chase the North all the way through town, but then pull back and allow the North to reform their lines in the high ground. So it could have been quite possibly a decisive final victory here on the first day, instead as a minor one, and the battle goes on. General Lee gave the command of this guy over here, Richard Ewell, the guys who commanded these guys coming down from the north, to attack Cemetery Hill if practicable. Ewell was kind of new to command. He hesitated, decided it was too late in the day, low on ammunition, high on casualties, and decides not to attack. Ewell was very much more used to direct orders, like from Stonewall Jackson. He was not used to a command saying, attack a hill, but only if practicable. You know, Ewell had never been given so much freedom. So when he received that order for the first time, he kind of thinks to himself, you know, what should I do? Should I attack? Should I wait? So he was unsure of what should be done. He decides not to, and the battle goes on. And he will not attack Cemetery or Culp's Hill till the following evening. You know, 24 hours later, everything had changed. Northerners have been reinforced. They have been given time to dig in on the high ground. And Ewell, as a result, have a far more difficult time on the second day of winning and capturing those hills than he probably would have had he went forward and gone for it here on the first day. Cemetery Hill, if you look back towards town, there's a very prominent red brick steeple with a black top in the middle of town. That's part of Gettysburg College. If you go above that steeple and to the right on the horizon, there you can see part of a light blue water tank. That's Cemetery Hill. That's kind of where the North pulls back to. To the left a little ways, you have a white steeple. To the left of that red brick steeple, the white steeple and the area beyond that is called Culp's Hill. So those two hills later on would help anchor the Union line and eventually really help them win this battle. If you know what the fishhook is, it kind of forms the barb of the fishhook Union battle line formation. But on the first day, the two hills simply were used as a rallying point for these retreating Northerners to fall back to for safety. And you can credit those hills still being open to the north to Buford and Reynolds, who were out here delaying the Confederates earlier. Had Buford not come out to the west of town, you know, the South could have felt at liberty to march all the way through town, capture the hills, and we wouldn't be standing here right now. But thanks to Buford's foresight and Reynolds helping him as well, the North still had a chance to win. And now indeed the North has the high ground. And that's how everything flips after the first day. Anybody have any questions while we're here?